I actually think that that's the accidental message of this story, because the Joker, despite victimizing and trying to drive Jim Gordon and Barbara Gordon insane to prove his point, fails. And it's why I actually have a different interpretation of the ending than most people seem to, because at first, when I first read it, I thought at the end that they just share a laugh and the Batman just takes him back to Arkham Asylum again. But the popular interpretation seems to be because of the visual imagery of the lights switching off at the end, which we'll get to in a moment. Well, I think we should just get to the end in a moment, so that we can discuss this a little bit more.
I'll put a pin in that just to say you're bang on about the revolutionary point, because the perpetual revolutionaries don't understand the natural existence of hierarchy, and so there's always going to be a hierarchy within their revolutionary caucus, and things like TikTok now, as we've seen literally with clown gender, creates perverse incentives to outcompete each other on the rank run of insanity. So if you internalize the perpetual revolution, you do become a Joker-esque figure of you will never have peace, you will just be eternally chaotic and just do things arbitrarily for the sake of it. But yeah, let's jump to the ending bit, and then we can jump back and forth a bit.
So because I think I have a somewhat more optimistic interpretation of the ending than many do, because many see it as Batman. Because if the interpretation of the ending that many people go with, which is that Batman kills the Joker at the end, is true, it does mean that in a sense the Joker has won. Joker has driven Batman to the point where he has to abandon his principles to do something that he knows will break him.
That's what Morrison thought happened, and Moore told him to F off, basically. But Morrison then did also call Watchmen the 12-issue equivalent of a sick form poem. So they hate each other, and I love that.
I love that Alan Moore just has rivalries with all of the other big comics writers from the 1980s. That man must have no friends.
He doesn't. He lives in a rural, remote village and disavows his own work.
He seems very caustic in interviews.
See, the death interpretation of the ending means it cannot be in continuity. I would be kind of happy with that, and I again wish that Three Jokers would have gone with that, because if a Joker turns up, Batman's like, "What happened? I already killed you." There was another one. That's why I could get away with bumping off this one or something. But yeah, if it's in continuity, he doesn't kill him.
Let's get to the ending, though.
Yeah. Okay. All right then. We'll flick. Yeah.
We've
we'll
mentioned
skip
a lot
between
of the plot developments that happen between now and then. So Joker has escaped. He goes to Barbara Gordon's flat, to apartment that she's there with Jim Gordon. Joker shoots her, crippling her by severing her spine, in the lower spine, and then kidnaps Jim Gordon. He takes some naked photos of Barbara, which is quite distressing, but then again, it's Alan Moore in the 1980s, and the man has no filter for his
In the early
depravity.
2000s, him and his wife did an underage, very sexualized comic book about fantasy characters. And
like Alice from Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah. Your hard drive needs checking, mate.
It does. It honestly does. But then Joker victimizes Jim Gordon by taking him to this theme park that he'd bought, putting him through a ride where he's shown horrible things, including those pictures of his daughter, and then Batman tracks him down, beats him up, saves Jim, who hasn't gone insane, and then they have possibly the most iconic discussion that Batman and Joker have ever shared in any medium, whether that be film, video games, or the comics. I think this is one of the defining moments of the Joker and Batman's relationship, which is wonderful because there is no sexual tension in it whatsoever. It is purely, almost as equals, they're addressing themselves.
It's almost as friends. He's literally saying there's these two guys in a lunatic asylum. One night they're trying to escape.
First, Batman finally, because obviously the plea that he makes to the Joker at the beginning was not to the Joker, it was to an imposter.
Yeah.
He finally gets to make his speech to the Joker and say, I don't want to kill you. Why don't we work together and we can fix you? We can turn you back into something normal-ish. We can do anything to try and help you. And for a brief second, the Joker, and this is portrayed brilliantly in Boland's artwork, seems to consider it with a genuine look of sadness in his face, and then rejects it because he just says, I'm too far gone.
Yeah.
I'm far too far gone.
Again, the sort of tragic romantic hero aspect, not hero necessarily, but protagonist, we'll say. Then, obviously, they go into the famous joke of there's these two guys in a lunatic asylum. One night, they decide they don't like living in the asylum anymore. They decide they're going to escape. So, they get up there on the roof, and there, just across this narrow gap, they see the rooftops of the town stretching away into the moonlight, stretching away to freedom. Now, the first guy jumps right across with no problem. His friend didn't make the leap. he's afraid of falling. So then the first guy has this idea. He says, "Hey, I have my flashlight with me. I'll shine it across between the gap and the buildings. You can walk along the beam and join me." But the second guy just shakes his head. He says, "What do you think I am, crazy? You'll turn it off when I'm halfway across." And then even Batman smiles and starts to laugh. That's obviously interpreted as Batman's psyche breaking, if you take the killer interpretation.
I don't think it is.
No, okay.
I think because of the symmetry between the panels at the beginning and the panel at the end being the exact same thing, I believe that this is supposed to demonstrate that this is a cyclical relationship. Yeah. This is not just a cyclical relationship, this is a cyclical series of events. The Joker will always try to break the Batman, and the Batman asserting order and dominance will never be broken.
I do like that.
But this is one moment where the two of them, almost as equals as human beings, can share. That's a slight break in that cycle, which then goes back into motion.
See, my own thing would be that I don't think, unless Batman went nuts, he would be smiling and laughing along with the Joker as an equal, unless it was a character assassination when he's just tortured Gordon and crippled Batgirl.
No, I see it as Batman finally recognizing after this event, after this story, I wanted to try and speak reason to the Joker. And the Joker, given the fact that he was able to connect with him very briefly for a moment, is capable of reason, does potentially have a little bit of humanity left down inside him that he refuses, that he just uses his reason to reject reason.
But wouldn't that make him more evil and therefore justify capital punishment? Because you're not going to execute the insane, but you are going to execute those people who know morality and voluntarily reject it.
Batman within this does have his principles, which I've mentioned before. He doesn't have to be an interesting character.
He also doesn't have them many times, and for those whining in the comments, "Oh, Batman doesn't kill," literally read his first appearance, which is homaged in here, where he drops someone in a chemical vat. Oh, isn't that sounding really familiar?
He chases him.
Yeah, but he lets him die.
Him into a chemical vat. Batman in comics is definitely, even in interpretations where he doesn't outright murder people, is definitely of the "I don't have to save you" variety.
He outright murders Joker in Batman 89.
Yeah, he does a lot of murdering and a lot of interpretations. But in this one, which once again I interpret as its own singular, self-contained story within its own continuity, which is what it was intended to be in the first place, Alan Moore had no idea that they were going to keep the Barbara Gordon getting crippled thing. I think it was literally just because of how popular the story was.
This sold like gangbusters.
Yes, it was a ridiculously popular story, so they just decided to incorporate it in there. I think this is Batman sticking to his principles, but just allowing the facade to crack for a moment so that they can share that together before things go back to business as usual.
See, I would agree that is the interpretation to put it into continuity. So we're in a really difficult impasse here of where you don't care about continuity, but you have the interpretation that allows it. And I really care about continuity.
No. Well, that's true. That's true.
Don't care about continuity in regards to this story.
My main concern is the theming means that this way Batman doesn't lose.
Yep.
Because otherwise, the Joker has broken him, he has made him break his principles, and whether or not the Joker is dead, this is the same conflict that you experience in The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan's film, which definitely takes some of its cues for the relationship from this, which is if the Batman does go ahead and kill him, then the Joker has won.
See, also the reason I like the he kills the Joker ending, and Moore didn't even intend it. He said, no, that's baloney. But it's because...
Which I'm surprised at, because Moore is normally nihilistic enough to go, right.
He likes it dark enough to that. There's a page here, it's page 17 in the Absolute Edition, we'll show it on screen, where Batman's sitting in the Batcave, and it shows an image of him and all the characters from the 50s that were inserted after Frederick Wortham did Seduction of the Innocent and accused Batman and Robin of being an underage gay relationship, which is gross.
Probably projection.
Yeah, so they inserted Kate Kane, Batwoman. No, not Kate Kane. Different one. Sorry. The Kate Kane was the post 52. The original Batwoman that then shows back up in Batman Incorporated. And also the original Batgirl.
I'm sure she was the original one because she also shows up before Batman Incorporated, before the New 52 had come into continuity for Grant Morrison's run. She shows up in... I think it's the Black Hand, that story.
I don't think she does as that group. I don't think the original Batwoman shows up. But Batwoman Kate Kane came in at 52, and the original Batwoman was in the Silver Age, and then she shows up at the end of Batman Incorporated.
Either way, they inserted a Batwoman character so that you knew that Batman wasn't gay.
Yeah, and then the new one was a lesbian. Anyway, so they then they added
He wasn't gay, but she damn well was.
Yeah, they added the original Batgirl and Batwoman, even though the new Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, is the one in continuity that came in after. But there's a photo of them on his desk, and that's really interesting, because that shouldn't be in continuity, but it is in this. And they've just disappeared reasonlessly, as has Robin. So it's almost a farewell to the Silver Age in the same way that Alan Moore did Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
But Superman gets his happy ending. He gets the wink and nod at the camera. He gets depowered. He has a family life. Batman doesn't seem to get a happy ending because he's a lot darker of a character. You can see with the tone of this story. So I think, even though Alan Moore has denounced that interpretation of the ending, I think he's doing it, honestly, just to be a countercultural dick. I think the murder ending makes more sense if you see this as a send-off for the Silver Age Batman going into the Dark Age. This is the end of pre-Crisis Batman's story.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.